hockey. Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
Big day for Judd's Hockey Show. Big day, because the season is done. AJ and I talked about it and went over some talking points on Monday. But now it's Wednesday. All the wrap-up stuff is done. Players have all left. Exit interviews done. Guerin and John Hines talked. And so Judd, AJ, and of course, Jessi Pierce, Bardown, Beauties, and also NHL.com has been attending all of these sessions, hearing all of the angst of the elimination, the plan going forward. Jess, let's start here. Bill Guerin's press conference yesterday, in which John Hines made an occasional appearance, but it was mostly Billy talking about things. How much did it make your antenna go up when, it wasn't surprising, but Guerin talked about, when asked particularly about positions in free agency, talked about the center position, which I think we all agree is paramount. How the Wild plan to get there will be intriguing, but what were your thoughts on his stance that it really does seem he wants to add I would guess, number one center?
I mean, it's not surprising, right? We've talked about it. We've speculated it. And like you said, this organization for almost its entirety of existence has needed a good centerman. And Joel Eriksson, I think, did a really nice job, especially in the faceoffs. Like, that was such a problem again for the 100th consecutive year. But I think you need to have somebody else. And again, as we saw in the playoffs, the demotion of Marco Rossi, call it what you will, it was a demotion of Marco Rossi to the fourth line. You don't have another top six center. It's not Freddie Gaudreau. It's not Marco. I think it's somebody that he wants on free agency. If it's Brock Nelson, I swear to God, it's a possibility, I'm sure. But I think there was no surprise in that. I'm glad he said it. I'm glad we had to ask him twice in order to get him to tell us that. Like, well, yeah, we know you're going to be on free agency, but like what? He's like, well, specific players, specific roles. Like, well, you can't tell us specific players, but you can tell us specific roles. And as we know, the defense is solidified. So a center is the hot button topic, which again, yes, makes all the chatter surrounding Marco Rossi and his future with the organization even louder, it seems.
Age, you are also anti-Brock Nelson as well. So like,
Yeah.
you two are kindred spirits when it comes to not wanting the kid from War Road to play for the Wild.
Yeah, because the kid from War Road's a full-grown adult now, and a 33-year-old at that, who's going to be 34 and 35 and 36 because he's going to get a no-move clause in 4 years, so they're going to have him until he's in a nursing home. And then, hey, this guy who was once a 30-goal scorer, guess what happens with old guys? They regress. That's just how time works. You don't have Benjamin Button walking through the door, getting younger. Like, Matt Cullen is not here anymore, right? Brock Nelson, what you've seen is only going to get worse. Can he flourish? To an extent, yeah, but like, if it's one or the other between Marco Rossi and Brock Nelson, I'm just so much higher on the younger guy who's 23 years old, continues to improve every year, has done everything that you've asked of him for the team. For a guy that, and you know, I understand he's been with New York and like they've had a couple runs, especially in the John Tavares days there, but like, what does he know about getting to a Stanley Cup final? Like, he doesn't have that postseason deep run experience that I think they're looking for to like to get in the culture here of the Minnesota Wild. Brock Nelson to me moves 0 meters, 0 gauges, doesn't do anything for me. There's other options. I understand wanting to get a different center. As long as they're not named Brock Nelson, I will entertain that ask. Totally fine.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, look at Gus Nyquist, right? 2 years difference, and it's 2 years difference. The regression is real, and that's just what age does. I like Brock Nelson as a person, and I think for him, I'm sure he wouldn't necessarily want to sign here either, because for him, that would be the signaling of the swan song, right? It would be like, okay, yep, I'm only coming there because my career could be done. Like, why wouldn't you want to stay in Colorado if Colorado were to elect that option, right? Or if another team, I think for him too, I wouldn't come here. I wouldn't do it.
So as far as the potential, the top level centers on the market starting July 1st go, okay? It is 4 names I've got written down. John Tavares, 34, probably goes back to Toronto. Sam Bennett, 29. I think the Panthers are going to try to keep him. Now he is a lightning rod of a player, but he is on, at least for now, the right side of 30. The aforementioned Brock Nelson, who, as AJ said, is 33, and Matt Duchene, who's with Dallas, 34, has played well, was bought out as recently as a few years ago by Nashville. So that leads me to my next question, because Guerin did say that the plan is, via free agency or a trade. Is there any trade? Because the Wild needs, in my opinion, they don't need a center. They need a number one. Now, does that mean that you're going to get one of the best in the league? Probably not. Does that mean that there are guys out there that are better than anyone that the Wild has at that position? Absolutely. Are we minimizing the conversation too much or narrowing it too much, Jess, by talking about free agency when that could be a path? But I also think a trade could be the path as well. I don't think going out and signing a center for the sake of it at this point is good enough. I think you legitimately have to show up at training camp with a depth chart that has an unknown name yet above Ek, and then Ek can slot into a 2. And I'm with you. No matter how well Hartman played, Ryan Hartman is a 3. Like he is going to regress to being himself at some point. Like this whole thing about, well, he didn't go bat bleep crazy. And, that's great, but it's not going to last. It never does. So are we not talking about the potential of a trade enough and how that might get you a center who would slot above Joel Eriksson Ek?
And are you looking at trading a player other than Marco Rossi? Because again, he's an RFA, right? So
Another
between
prospect,
arbitration,
probably.
right?
Oberyn,
Like
maybe?
You would go, no, I don't like that.
No, but I'm just saying but if you're gonna get a true 1 at center, it's gonna cost you.
It'll cost you 100%. I think a trade's very likely. I think 2 trades will happen this summer again, whether Marco's involved in one or not. I get the sense there. I would rather, priority number 1 is locking up Kaprizov. See how much you have left, because I do want to reiterate to everybody, it is not balls to the wall, open wallet necessarily for the Minnesota Wild and for Bill Guerin. You've got Brock Faber's contract kicking in. You still have the $7 million on Bolds. And you're still paying just a little under $1 million to Kaprizov and Suter each for the next 4 years, which I realized again yesterday. I was like, holy cow, it's still technically not off the books, right? And then I go back to the old tried and true. What does Kirill want? Kirill, what would you like? Sam Bennett intrigues me. I don't know that I love it as much. There are games where I really want him, and there are other games where I'm like, nope, absolutely not. Like, he does kind of have that dirty player surrounding him. Whether he elbowed Stolarz the other night or not, it depends on the angle, and I can appreciate that he talked to media the next day, but there's something about him that I feel wouldn't necessarily fit in this culture, even as decent of a centerman as he is.
He definitely plays on the border. I don't know that you would hate him if he played for you, but I think as far as to go back to your question, and I almost feel like we should talk about the Kaprizov contract more as things approach, because I mean, if everyone is telling the truth, it's going to get done. It's going to be costly. Keep in mind, it will kick in 2026-27, because he's still signed at $9 million per for a cap hit next year. But if everyone's telling the truth, that gets done. Like, it's going to be 8 years. He's going to break the bank. And yes, you're right. That means that you're not going to have this unbelievable amount of cap room. The Athletic projects the cap room for the Wild, by the way, for next season right now, it's $17.4 million. But I think what Kirill needs and what Kirill should want is a center that's not Ek. And this is no shade against Ek, but Eriksson Ek should be on a line that is a multifaceted. It can check, it can score some goals. I think Kirill needs to be on a line with a center who can make plays, who is a good two-way player, but like Ek is also your shutdown guy, which I appreciate a lot. So that's my point is, and I'm going to run this past you. What if they shopped Ogren and they traded him in a deal to get a center, but then they used their cap space to sign a winger that can score? So you've got Kaprizov, another wing, because Billy brought that up as well, which I thought was intriguing. Because like if you're going to get a number one center in free agency and a winger that can score, that's going to be a lot of money. So anyway, I'm just spitballing here to what you could do to get a center who can be your top center, and then also maintain scoring on the wing, because I hope to God that Marcus Johansson is not brought back. No offense, Marcus. Love
and
you.
I think that was one thing that Guerin, we asked him, like, would you consider bringing any UFAs back? And it was kind of like, yep, possibly, where it did not feel genuine at all. Like, I mean, there's nobody good enough that you're like, yeah, we really need to have them back with this organization. We need to have them do this. I think when you're looking at the wing position, I do think Brock Besser is a candidate, and that wouldn't have to necessarily be via trade, right? That's an offseason free agency signing. I think that feels more imminent. Now, yes, that goes back to my old tried and true. Oh, he's from Minnesota. We have to deal with that whole lot again, but he can score. When he is healthy, he is still in the young frame set, still within that brackets that I enjoy. And I like Mitch Marner as my other option for wings. I know he's going to, I do. Sorry.
Oh, that's too hot to handle.
I'm sorry.
I'm backing up from the mic. Too hot to handle.
Laymaker. I love it. Now, I've been told from other people that Bill Guerin isn't a quote unquote Mitch Marner guy, whatever the hell that means. But I like Mitch Marner.
I hate guys that are 100-point guys. I hate that.
Right? Jeez Louise. I just don't think Toronto can get it done. They've got a lot of things to do. I would offer sheet the hell out of Matthew Nyes too, if they could, but no, can't do it. Gave away that pick for Gus Nyquist.
How about you just trade rights for rights with like a Rossi and a pick and maybe a prospect for a Nyes? I mean, he's young.
I mean, you could do that, right? Like
you could, yeah. And then it's like a sign and trade and sign type thing. But what about like, is Nikolai Ehlers in this conversation as well? Because I think he's projected to make very similar to that of a Brock Besser. So if Brock Besser is in the conversation, you have a guy who can play on both sides, no problem. It's in division. So like, is there any bad blood there where he's like, I don't want to go play for the Wild? But if you're going to trade for a number one guy, Mika Zibanejad, potentially, like, get out of there. They are in a rebuild type of thing. So that's where maybe you do center for center. Rossi, you throw in a third. Who knows? Maybe you can get them to keep like 10% of the cap space or something. Knock that down. I don't know. But then is like Nikolai Ehlers, I think, is very much flying under the radar. And I know that they are still in the playoffs. So it's weird to think about. He could re-sign there. There's no conversations, but he's a UFA. He's 29 years old. He's projected to make about the same as Brock Besser, and that's a guy that really intrigues me.
Yeah. I like it. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I think that's the way to get there. Like, I just, you need to, I think when Bill Guerin says, I want a center and possibly a scoring wing, I think that's code for I probably have to trade for one of them. And Rossi's gone. Yeah. I mean, they could say whatever they want about that was not a demotion. Jesse's right. It was a demotion. His minutes went down. They played him with two stiffs. I mean, really hard-working wingers. So
let me toss another center out there at you. Let me just.
Yeah. No. Are you kidding? This is an open conversation. I love this.
Mikhail Granlund. Are we saying yay or nay?
I'm out on him. I'm out. I need a guy with more. I need a guy. You know. So
he's refound a little something. I'm just. Yeah. I'm just for topic for conversation. Yeah. Just topic for conversation.
Here's what I want. I want a stronger, bigger guy than that playing center. I want a guy like the Eriksson Ek body type. I actually would take, but I want a guy that can log a ton of ice time. Like it's time to do it. It's time to do it. Find a way to get, like, if you're going to win a Stanley Cup or get close, I think as apparent as it became in the NFL playoffs last year, that the Vikings were not going to win unless they bolstered their offensive and defensive line. Jessi, I think the lack of a center for this team has just it jumps off the page. Like when you watch these games now, right? It jumps off the page. So I think you got to find a way to do that. But then I do like the idea of, could you through free agency go get a winger who can score? And that's where I'm talking about a possible trade here, at least for one of those positions.
And actually now I have to look it up because I had a really good conversation with a fan the other day, and they had mentioned Dylan Larkin, which at first I immediately said, no, he's too old. They're like, no, he's just been in the league since he was 19. So he's actually very young. He's just been playing. Sounds like there is a little bit of tension between him and Yzerman and with the Red Wings. Now, obviously he's the captain. That would be one way via trade, but I wouldn't mind exploring that, right? I think Billy has his connection, his affinity to Americans too. So there's that instant relationship built there as well. Now, what Detroit's asking price for Dylan Larkin, again, their captain and one of their best centermen and whatever they're trying to do out in Detroit, it'd probably be a lot. But I mean, would you say, let's just hypotheticals here. Ogren,
Yeah.
Ogren, Rossi, and yeah, I'd probably throw a kickback of something else in there, right? Probably another prospect, maybe. For
Kiviharju,
who?
Aaron Kiviharju, that
Yeah.
defender from Finland, who
Age
just
was trying to trade him.
I
Okay.
I like him as a
trying to
player.
trade him.
I don't even know who it is. Good.
I like him as he was the fifth round
Prospect
pick in the Z Buium draft. He was the guy that Bill Guerin was like, you're gonna know my name here pretty soon. Like, you shouldn't have made me wait this long.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Captain of Finland at the World Juniors, like, good player, but just for like what they have in the works right now, I just don't see a spot for him anytime soon on the blue line.
That's a pretty
Yeah.
good package, Jessi. So if I
Teresa
could
Larkin.
if I could get a kickback of a draft pick, probably a late round pick from Detroit, I love that idea. Like this is what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Like Dylan Larkin's big time. Now it's weird because I think he's from Michigan. He went to
Yes.
school there.
Mhm.
So he's got deep roots there. But then I've read the same stuff. Like they're like he and Stevie Y. I think Dylan is rightfully so frustrated because he's played in like one playoff game or one playoff series in his entire career. But that's the type of idea that I think we need to be open to.
Yeah.
Like not the can you go get Matt Duchene? Because Age is right about that. Like, okay, that's great. He's 34 though. So now you're going to give him a no move a rich four-year contract, and we're going to be sitting here in 2 years saying, he's all gray, old, and can't play as well. Like I want to solidify that spot. So because I think once you do, you become a much more realistic contender. Because the blue line does look good. Like I do like the blue line.
Mhm.
For now, I like the goaltending with Gus at least. But I don't think there's any way around the fact that John Hines didn't feel comfortable enough breaking up his lines there. Like Eck had to do everything, and I don't know that that's sustainable to actually be a successful team.
Would you take Tavares for a year or two?
Yeah.
Like I would take Tavares for 2 years.
Oh yeah, if I got the right deal. Like I think he's
Right?
going back to yes, yeah. Well, I mean, hell, I wrote on the Zolgadian Substack because I'm going to bang this drum until it's dead. I wrote. I think that Marc-Andre Fleury not only has a job with the team lined up, which Bill Guerin said, but I think he's going to the Worlds to tell Sidney Crosby, do what I did, man. Come here and retire here. 2 years. 2 years, Sid. You come here and play. I'm in town. You can come to my house for dinner. Everyone's like, he's going to Montreal. I don't know that Sidney Crosby wants that. Sidney Crosby loves to be below the radar.
Yeah.
But anyway,
He's
yes,
loyal.
I would. To
He's
answer
already
your
got the
question,
Medina house
yes.
picked out.
Yeah, I'm saying. Oh, we'll give him a great house. We'll give him 2
Yeah,
houses.
absolutely. And that's where I lift my old guy ban for certain guys, like on a shorter deal with the right term. One of them that I think it depends because he's going to be 38 in the middle of the next season, Claude Giroux. But let me before you hesitate here, listen to these face-off numbers for the past couple of years. Okay, face-off percentage this season, played 81 games, took a little under 1,000 draws, 61.5%. 61.5. Season before that, 58, then 58.3, 57.9, 60. All he does is win faceoffs. Last 3 seasons, he's only missed 1 game. He stays healthy. He's an old man, but like if you want to sign him for a 1 or 2 year deal, that's just fine. It's the Brock Nelson, then hey, all of a sudden it's a 5-year deal at this outrageous cap. That's where I have an issue. But for Claude Giroux, Sidney Crosby is a totally different exception because it's Sidney Crosby. But for a John Tavares, a Claude Giroux, if it's a shorter term and the right deal, I will lift my old guy. What's the gray hair thing? Just for men. We'll supply that in the locker room. They'll look dapper. They'll look great in green. I don't care as long as the term is right.
Great new sponsorship for the Minnesota Wild. You just gave him that one there too. There you go. There you go, guys.
Way to go, Age. Yeah, you know what? So are you then on board with Nelson if he signs like a 2-year contract, which I don't think he's going to do, but like if Brock Nelson would take a 2-year contract, would that
moves me more for sure.
satisfy you?
Mhm.
But I mean, I still don't think he's the answer. I would love to find an answer here. I would love to find a multi-year solution. So like The Larkin thing to me, which would be expensive, Jess, as hell. You're right about that. But that's like, if you could do that, a player like that at that age who plays that position, I mean, that would be ideal. I don't know if it's possible or not, but I think it has to be and is going to be explored by Bill Guerin.
It has to be. Shout out to Trav Zimmerman again, who planted that little seed in my head, and I've just been thinking about it ever since. Like, I'm just like, I don't hate it. Once I realized that he's not as old as I perceived him to be, because I did him instantly. I was like, no, he's old. And I was like, oh no, he's played that long.
Well, how old is he actually? Dylan Larkin.
He's
28?
28. Yeah, he's only
God.
28. Doesn't
All
feel
right.
like he's been around for he has
That's
been
the
around
same
for a
age.
decade.
And Aegis Kirill. Think about
Yeah.
that. Those two guys are the same age.
Future together.
And me.
And
I saw him.
A couple of
Some
28
people.
years.
just
I
a
saw
couple
him
28-year-old.
play in. I saw him play in college, so I feel really old because I saw Dylan play against the Gophers, and so like I remember him in college, and it doesn't feel that long ago, but clearly it was. So again, I'm dated. Hey, plenty more to get to, but before we do that, if you are an old guy yourself, if you're an old hockey player, or let's say that you played beer league and now you can't because you're in pain, I want to talk to you about the experts at Neos Elite Performance who can help you get back on the ice. They can help you get back on the court. Neos Elite has cutting-edge regenerative medicine and cellular IV therapy that's designed to get you going again. And here's the best part, no invasive procedures. It's called white glove service, which means no trips to the doctor's office. It does mean that the experts at Neos come to you. So if pain is slowing you down, keeping you from doing what you love, Neos Elite's therapies will reduce that pain, restore your function, and get you back to playing hockey, get you back to playing basketball. Also, if you reference our flagship show, Purple Daily, you get $500 off a cellular IV therapy treatment. That's right, $500 off for just referencing Purple Daily. No surgery, no downtime, just results. NeosElite.com, Neos Elite.com. And Jessi, it's gorgeous outside. People are going golfing now. And I'm going to guess that some people's games are rusty. They're not good. So what do you do?
If it's rusty like mine, like we all are, it gets to be a long winter month. Get ready with your swing at Swing Lab Golf Performance in Lakeville. If you're looking to make improvements in your game this season, Swing Lab Performance in Lakeville is the spot to be. They offer a variety of services from professional lessons, advanced club fitting to excellent repairs and regripping. Swing Lab even has a summer membership for just $99 a month, you guys, that will get you unlimited swings with TrackMan technology and Swing Catalyst video analysis. Replace the range and practice with purpose. Not only is it a place to get better, but they've got lunch specials. They got buckets of beer. They got food, happy hour, ladies' nights on Thursdays. If you're down in the South Metro, head on over to Swing Lab Performance in Lakeville. Get your golf game on.
Beautiful. Among my notes that I drew up after the loss to the Golden Knights last week is this. It's time to play the youngsters. So do we have a feeling, Jessi, and Age, do we have a feeling that, Johansson's probably, or I think is gone. I hope he's not brought back. Gus Nyquist should be gone. John Merrill likely gone. Zach Bogosian's not gone, but I could make a very good case that the 6 defensemen who play on opening night should not involve Zach. But when it comes to, as of now, Yurov, Jurasek, Ogren, Zibuyam, do we have a feeling that 2025-26 is going to be the year that we see these kids play consistently and that they're not kept on these odd leashes where, like, Ogren, you make the opening night roster, so we're all like, oh, cool, he's going to play, and then he spends the majority of the season at Iowa?
Yeah, I think for sure Zibuyam, right? Obviously, you saw him able to handle his NHL debut in game 1 against one of the heavier teams in the Vegas Golden Knights. So I think without question, he is a kid you'll see. Hopefully he comes back looking a little bit more like a man, right? You look at him and you're like, man, he looks like a 19-year-old. So I think that's going to be a big point of emphasis for him this offseason. David Jiricek is a guy that is obviously very intriguing, right? They gave up a lot to bring David Jiricek to only have him in the same role as he was in Columbus. And then obviously he gets hurt down in Iowa. So his season is ended. And that was a big point of questioning for Bill Guerin is, does he have to have a spot on this roster next year? And of course, Guerin gave us the whole, well, it has to be earned, but it does feel like Guerin agrees. There is a spot waiting and open for David Jiricek. I don't anticipate him being in Iowa, starting in Iowa. Now, I believe, let me double check this. I believe he is one of a number of players that Bill Guerin has requested to stay in Minnesota this offseason too. Jesper Wallstedt is another guy. Obviously, Marco Rossi was a player that they requested that of a couple years ago as well. So they see a lot of, that's a big point of emphasis for the guys that they want to take that next step. And I think Juracek is another one of those players. So I think he's going to find his role. Danilia Yurov is the other guy as well, who Bill Guerin says they expect to sign him, expect to have him here. He's one that I'm kind of questioning whether he will be in Iowa to start or whether he does make the roster again. There's a spot there for him. But it'll be curious to see what their plan of action is because they haven't had him over here yet, right? I mean, they've had him at development camp and whatnot. Last year he didn't make it, but it'll be interesting to see what he has. It was very curious to me too that Kirill Kaprizov, when asked if he's spoken with Danilia, had said, no, we don't talk. And part of that's just his rough English, which came off way more direct than I'm sure he meant it. But it was like, oh, okay, you don't talk. Interesting. Sounds good. So I think Bill Guerin recognizes, yes, you have to make way. Now, again, what he does in free agency is going to determine a lot of what's left available for them. But for right now, if I were to make up the roster, Juracek, Buium for sure in, rounding out that defenseman. Yurov is the only one that I could be like, maybe yes or no. And Ogren is another guy, sorry, I forgot about him, that I think should make the lineup out of camp.
Yeah, it feels like based on what you're projecting them to do this offseason in terms of trades or signings and stuff, there's 3 guys that you can like chalk in, and they're the ones that you just said. I am iffy on Yurov. I think he could probably slide in and start opening night as a third center if needed, but I would understand, and there's not any like rush to get him in the lineup. If they say we want to have him have a stint down in Iowa to start the season, and then he comes up either through injury with somebody in the big club or just like he just plays too good and somebody has to get demoted, I understand that. But Juracek, you traded for him, and then the whole conversation and narrative was like, oh, we want to get him playing. We got to get this confidence back and this change of scenery. Well, even when he was here and he had the change of scenery, you still sat him in the press box next to Judd for 4 or 5 games straight. You guys are great friends now, right? Like you got to know each other first.
We speak the same language.
Yeah, exactly.
He taught me his language. I'm fluent.
Yeah.
So now, and he should be healthy with that spleen thing by training camp. He should make, given the size, his offensive ability. I'm sure with him staying. Did you say he's one of the guys staying?
I just found the quote. So here's what Billy said. We believe in him and we're just looking forward to him getting healthy and getting back on track. I think he's going to spend some time here this summer, which is fantastic because we've gotten good results when players do that. So we're excited that he's going to make that sacrifice. So yes, he is one of the players. Like I said, Wallstedt is the other one that I know for sure. And I can't recall if we asked him about Ogren, whether he'll be spending some time here or not, but I know Ogren, I think, did last summer. So it wouldn't surprise me if he does that same thing this year.
I bet you they're going to hammer like defensive stuff into him all summer long. Cause that was the knock on his game, is like he drifts and he strays from position. It's going to be positioning. You're on a leash. We still want you to use that offensive talent that you're gifted with, but if you're going to play defense in the NHL, you have to play defense. So, Buium and him should be mainstays in that defensive side next season. Ogren should make the team out of camp and stay there this time. Like if he goes down again, maybe you wince and maybe something that I don't, but it feels like Jessi, he should get a shot to be an everyday NHLer.
And then, again, going back to Heinz's answer about Ogren and what he did, it still seems a little wishy-washy as I'm just reading through this to regenerate. It was a half-hour long press conference yesterday, you guys. Half-hour long with Bill and Heinz.
I watched the whole thing, yeah. It was riveting.
Yeah, it is. It's a riveting. We do a great job asking questions. We really do. It seems like they were impressed with Ogren the times that he had been called up and sent down, but it feels like they're not sure that he's fully NHL ready just yet, based on Heinz. He had said, and I quote, you can see his speed and his ability to compete. I think earlier this year in his first couple of stints, he looked like a guy with NHL potential. And then he went down to Iowa and played well. And every time he came back, there was maturity to his game. He went through the process that most young players go through and handled it the right way. He is a guy we are expecting to come back next fall and push. So again, it's circled there, but it doesn't sound like they're ready to say like, yep, this is the guy. And, I think we'll see.
Well, and can happen over the summer.
Well,
Yeah.
and if they do acquire and or sign in free agency a scoring winger, that guy's clearly going to be a top six. And now you've got Boldy, you've got Zuccarello, you've got new guy potentially, and then because Johansson's gone, but I mean you'd still have but I mean
That's it. Like you said, Johansson and Nyquist, those are the two that are gone. You know what I mean? Like
Ogren just needs
and
to play.
Brazo.
Yeah, Brazo. I could see them re-signing him. I
No,
hope they don't.
no.
No. I could see that.
I didn't even.
Billy
even
loves
ask
the big
about
boys.
him. Ugh.
Billy loves the big boys. Their whole thing on how Rossi fit. I mean, so I thought yesterday's. I'll say this. I thought the majority of the presser was pretty frank about things. Like they're not going to tell you their game plan, and I don't expect them to. But I thought they were pretty upfront about, the Wallstedt thing, which I do want to ask you about, Jess. I thought they were pretty upfront about things, but the Rossi thing I thought was off the charts weird. One, he was demoted. Two, they made it sound like they did him a favor, and he scored 2 goals by putting him with Trenton and Brazo, when that was, like, to me, it was an awful decision. How big a mistake do you think they're potentially making here? Because it feels like Rossi is gone, and it feels like they don't care. Like he's just going to be traded. And I know that it's going to save money, but this is a kid who worked his ass off to come back from a heart condition. He's not especially big, but he works hard in front of the goal. He had 60 points?
Yeah, he went from 40 to 60 in a year. And he was very clear on that with us when he spoke to us the day prior, right?
Yeah.
Or 2 days prior. He's like, just so you know, 40 points to 60 points in a year is kind of a lot. I don't know.
I don't disagree with him though. I agree with the young man, but how big a mistake do you think is being made here? Because I don't think he's a talentless bust, and they used the 9th pick on this kid back in 2020. So what's your, after hearing the Guerin stuff with Hines and after hearing Marco on, I think it was on Sunday, what's your takeaway from where this is at, where it's going, and if you think the Wild's about to drop the ball on this?
I don't think it's dropping the ball, right? I don't want to say that because, again, I've been calling for the trade for 2 years now. No, there's value. If you get what you need back from Marco Rossi, there's no sense in continuing to bury him on the 4th line. And right now, the way that they are laying out the lineups, that's what they're going to continue to do. So what's the point? What's the point of wasting a 60-point player on the 4th line? You might as well go trade him and get somebody else that you feel fits in your top 6. And Marco Rossi, to be very clear, he was also very direct on this, saying, I am a top 6 player. I am. That's where he wants to be. I think the biggest point of contention for both parties is I would love to know, and I know Mike Russo of The Athletic has reported it, and I don't know how much has changed. I want to know what Rossi's agents are coming in as far as a number, because if he is asking that 8 million that could be reported, or the 7, no, sir, excuse me, that's probably not where you fall. So I would understand Billy's point and being no, we're going to move you then. If that's what you think, that's not where you're at, right? So I'd be curious to see what that number is that they're talking about, because that I think is their biggest difference. And then, as you said, he's smaller, and that's just not a player that Bill Guerin necessarily wants. Now, I do think his move down to the 4th line in the playoffs, it worked for a hot minute, and I didn't disagree with it, because I do think sometimes John Hines isn't doing it, as he said, as a demotion, right? I think it's sometimes just the way it falls. However, to not move him back up after 2 outstanding games and not move Freddie Gaudreau down, that's where you're like, okay, you don't like this kid. You don't want to give him that opportunity. I gave them the grace of that, but I don't think it's dropping the ball. At the end of the day, I wouldn't be mad as long as you get what's necessary back, because he's going to get offer sheeted too. If they don't sign him by July 1, or if they haven't traded him, he's also a player that's going to be offer sheeted, and then that's not exactly a situation you want to be in either if you're Minnesota.
No, and I think because of, so the offer sheets are taboo, or it's been that's bad business. You shouldn't offer sheet my guy. I won't offer sheet your guy. Except for what the Blues did with the 2 kids from the Oilers, worked out marvelously. Yeah. So I do think we are going to see this now, because who cares if I go, if the GM of the Oilers, Stan Bowman, won't go have cocktails with me at some, in some Florida posh club where we're trying to talk about rules. I don't give a damn. So I do think that you're about to see that. I think you have to trade him. I'm with you. If he's asking for too much, I think you do trade him. My problem is I feel like you suppressed his value though. If you're mad, if part of the reason why you're mad is that, and that's why he played on the 4th line, I have a problem with that because he should have been on the third line. I mean, Marcus Foligno, who I thought had a marvelous playoff, was done an injustice by being put with Gaudreau, who was doing nothing as the playoffs went on. And quite frankly, too, I will go to my grave saying the game 5 overtime goal does not get scored if Gaudreau is the center, because Rossi was being asked to play a heavy role in his own defensive zone, which to me was John Hines' malpractice because it was setting him up for failure. And Gaudreau would have known how to play that. I don't think that goal gets scored. So I guess I would like to know, is the motivation, hey, you're eventually going to trade him because he's trying to get too much? I would actually be, okay, with that, as long as you can make a good trade. But if the motivation is, well, he asked for too much, and so we're going to show him, which, I mean, hockey people are vindictive SOBs at times, potentially. Okay. Jesper Wallstedt signed to a contract extension, a one-way contract before this season. So he was paid on an NHL. No, he wasn't paid great, but he was paid on an NHL level. He was supposed to be here. It didn't work out, so he wasn't. He clearly went through some trying times in Iowa. I don't know a ton of specifics, but we do know that he did talk after playing in a game here in chapter and verse about how difficult it was. So as we get set to go to training camp, are you comfortable with Gus, who might get an extension, and I think definitely proved himself? Are you comfortable with Gus and Wallstedt, or are we somewhat skeptical now, given what Jesper went through this past season with Iowa?
I think it would be crazy to not be a little skeptical and a little concerned with the way that the season went for Jesper. We've talked about it before. It was a year that he desperately needed to end. It just needed to end for him. He needed to reset. He is another player that's going to spend time. The interesting thing is that Bill Guerin made a point to say that he's going to spend some time and get in shape here in Minnesota. So I don't know if that was possibly part of the problem that was debilitating him a little bit this year. He obviously dealt with some injuries that we were unprivy to, that were undisclosed. And the other thing is, as we've talked about, he needs to get tougher mentally. It sounded like, I think he needs to be able to fight through those harder, and to have him go through that as a top backup goalie is a little concerning. So I would love to see them go out, and I don't have names, I can look them up right now, but I'd love to see them go out and sign a veteran goalie for a year or 2 years, right? And just have that guy there. One that you can send down to Iowa and not have any problems. A guy that's just looking to play a little hockey a little bit longer, but at least he's there in case things hit the wall with Jesper again.
Cam
you
Talbot,
need
perhaps.
to have that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm in. Why not?
Cam Talbot can come back, and his
Talbot
wife will be
come back.
thrilled, especially if he's in Iowa. Right, Age? She'll be absolutely thrilled.
Yeah, I'm sure she'd love that.
So what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on Wallstedt? Because this
Yeah.
becomes a key thing now, because Flower is gone. So like you can't tell Gus, hey, go start 75 and then take us through the playoffs. Like, this is a very important job, and I think it's one that to what Jess said, you have to be at least a little skeptical.
I bet he's gone, but it sounds like he's staying in the Twin Cities, Minnesota area. I bet you if, deep into the summer, they're still having struggles there, Billy G might just give him a quick ring, and it's like, hey, Flower, can you do me a quick favor? Just want to stroll over the rink real quick,
His
just
poor
talk to this
wife and
kid.
kids. I
I
don't.
know.
He already
He's-
doesn't want to retire, and you can hear it in his voice.
I know. He he loves the game so much. I bet you it's a
No.
month or two, and then it's like, all right, I'm just gonna swing by the rink. It's gonna be like he's gonna be cheating, but just by going to a practice. Gus, I
And
think
funny enough, he said that Fleury said he would like to be around for the younger goalies. He's like, maybe there's something for the younger goalies that I can do. And you saw what he did with Gus as far as mentoring him and turning that into a really good partnership that I stamp of approval from me.
I feel like that doesn't come out of nowhere. Like, obviously that's his thing, but that feels like past conversations have planted like a goalie coach, goalie advisor to young player type of thing. I bet you that is in the future, but I think Gus is solidified in my mind. Like, he is for sure. I don't need like a more than capable backup. Like Flower, for the times that he was in the net, I think this year and got consistent work, did a just fine job. There were some bad games at times, but for the most part, I thought he played still pretty well for a guy who's 40 years old. Jesper Wallstedt being the backup, it depends on the summer goes, but I would like to think that the level of skill and high level prospect that he was being touted as a couple years ago, that just doesn't vanish. That doesn't just like dwindle down this quickly. there's still something there. So if they can salvage that and work it back up and build it over the summer to where he has confidence, he finds a better form, a better fit. And when training camp comes around, maybe he's not going to be a lights out guy, but he at least looks capable. And you're like, okay, you're in a backup role. We're going to give you a cameo here and there. You're going to play a handful of games. That can then also take the load off Gus so that late in the season, they don't have to ride. Like, you don't have a Connor Hellebuck type of situation.
I was going to say, like, that's all I can think of now, right? Like, we can't do that. Can't do that.
He's going to play 62 games, and sure, they're winning a bunch of games, and then he's worn out, and he's just a frail, brittle, like, piece of himself by the time the postseason rolls around. So, no kidding. So I think you can't make a rational judgment on Wallstedt until he gets like another handful sample size of work in the NHL. I'm not ready to write him off, but I will say it is concerning that this past year, like, you've seen such a digression in what he once was and once was on like track to be. So we'll see how that all pans out.
And it was a mind F for him from the get-go when they put 3 goalies on the situation. Like, it was a very hard, I think, situation for him to overcome, because he looks at it right away as, I made it. I'm here. I'm in the NHL, and things don't go that way. And yes, that's part of learning to be a professional athlete, right? Is like, you have to accept the things that you don't want to, and you have to accept going down. But even platooning in, he was supposed to be platooning in, and it never happened. And so those opportunities took away a lot from him. And I think him and Gus have a good relationship too. Obviously, they've got the Swedish connection, but I know they hang out quite a bit. And I think Gus, learned enough of that from Fleury. And I think he's ready to obviously come in and be that starting goalie, but it'll be interesting to see how he also in turn mentors Jesper and kind of can help him maybe move past that, because I think you're right, Age. It's not like he's just complete dog poop now. Like, he'll figure it out. He is a very good goalie. He is still that first round selection for the Minnesota Wild. It's not as exciting anymore seeing that he is human as well.
Last thing, guys, I want to ask you about special teams because it's incredibly important. In the regular season this year, the Wild power play, which granted was without some key players for extended periods of time, the power play was 20th in the league at 20.9%. More bothersome, the penalty kill, which John Hines, I know, was asked about, Jessi. The last 2 years, they have ranked 30th in a 32-team league. A year ago, it was bad. It was 74.5%. This year was worse, I believe, 72.4%. Anyway, bottom line is the power play wasn't great. The penalty killing is killing you. John Hines talked about fixing it. He talked about some adjustments. To me, that is one area, because coaches got fired because of that. That is one area where you need to be good next season. I'm done with this penalty kill being bad. You need to find guys. You need to play guys. You need to win faceoffs that Hines talked about. But just as far as the penalty kill goes, I know it's not fun to play on. I know it's not sexy. It is imperative that if this team is going to be competitive, though, that penalty kill gets out of basically the bottom of the entire league.
It goes back to faceoffs, and I think John Hines was right. That was the big point that he stressed. Like, we joked about it a number of times on the show. Like, they're on the PK. They're gonna lose that draw in the defensive zone because they lost almost every GD draw in the defensive zone, and that's just unacceptable, right? Like, you need to have a better. It almost feels like too they just go into that shell and they don't really come out of it. They don't do anything. They're not proactive. They started to a little bit. It's bad. And you're right. I'm curious to see how the personnel can change that, because that was the exciting thing. Like, you lost Darby, you lost your assistant coaches. Now you got these new guys in here, but not much has changed in the 2 areas that have been of prime concern for the past couple of seasons, if not past decade: faceoffs and PK. And John Hines had mentioned, I think, something about exploring how they did it in the 4 nations and how it was effective in 4 nations. It's like, well, no shit, it was effective in the 4 nations. You had top players. Like, that's the thing. So again, Eureka! It goes back to getting them in free agency, finding somebody that can win a draw, that can play on your PK. I think there should be at least a little note in there, like, okay, we could maybe have them there. Because Gus Nyquist, even that was the one little thing that maybe he could do, lost it.
They benched him from that. Now, I will say, in training camp, they had threatened to play Boldy. They didn't for a long time. When they finally did, he was not bad, again, because he's a really good player. So yeah, but the power play I would like to see improve. I think it should improve from 20th. I think Kirill being back, hopefully for an entire season, helps that a lot. But the penalty kill, to me, people's jobs again should be on the line, because that is a schematic thing. That is a personnel choice on players. And, quite frankly, if you're going to throw, if you clearly don't like Hustadinov, but you're still going to say, well, if you're going to play, you're going to be on the PK. Like, it's not this punishment of we're going to put you on the PK. You're punishing yourself. So I think the penalty kill age has to improve. And if it doesn't, I think you're going nowhere again.
Yeah, the struggling part is they got so much better goaltending. Like 2 years ago, that was the key thing where it's like, oh, the goaltending was just bad. They would like your best penalty killer is your goaltender, and it was just terrible. This year was the exact opposite. It was still bad because, like Jessi's point right off of the top, which is the top of the play, the face-off, they lose it, D to D, nobody hustles the top, shot, goal, boom. 7 seconds, 5 seconds, you name it, they score it. It doesn't. They need to work on. It has to be like better scouting ahead of time, because you saw that in the Vegas series, they clearly wanted to take away the one-timer opportunities on the wing. But then you saw Vegas say, okay, if you're going to take that away, we're going to take right down Broad Street here, have Theodore walk in, fire, and have a shot on goal with maybe one or two guys screening Filip Gustavsson. You have to be willing to change game to game. Like, you can't just go, it's not a one-size-fits-all penalty kill. It has to cater to the other team, because they're the team in control. They have possession. Power play, you do whatever you want. If you want to do slow as molasses, hope they take themselves out of position like they've been doing for the past 3-4 years, then by all means. I'm going to hate it still, but that's what they're going to do. Penalty kill, you have to look at who you're playing on a night-to-night basis. And some teams, and it's how many different ways do you actually have to prepare for that too? It's not like the power play is this brand new invention. There's a set 3 or 4 ways to do it. There's been some reinventions. Like I saw Columbus, I think, started doing these like downhill one-timers this season, which was actually really fun to watch because it was effective. But
Our guy Dean.
That's our guy Dean.
Dino. There has to be major like punishments for coaching staff, people dictating and coaching this next season. If you get midway through the season and you're still 28th or lower, like, you have to see significant improvements. I'm not top of the barrel, but league average has to be the standard here moving forward.
All I know is that the Vegas Golden Knights threw out Eichel and William Karlsson, and it worked out pretty damn well. It's nice to have some skill on that PK.
Oh, you did.
Corell and Eck is on your PK night.
Let's do that.
Terrible idea.
Okay, we're done. We're done here. We're done. It's enough. Back next week. Jessi, I'm guessing that you will continue to join us because there's still stuff to talk about. Is that correct?
Yeah,
okay, good.
As long as you'll have me, boys, I'm here.
I don't know what your Score North contract says because I don't negotiate those things. But anyway,
to tell Phil. Just tell Phil to keep sending the checks my way. That's fine.
I will indeed. Jessi Pierce, AJ, Judd, Judd's Hockey Show. We'll see you later.